I'm Joshua Goss, the owner and qualifying broker here at Tradition Real Estate. I want to talk about what it's like to buy your first home. I want to get into the process from the very beginning, the first thoughts to getting qualified, to talking to a realtor, to putting in an offer, to getting the offer accepted, all the way through escrow, title, closing, and getting keys moving into your new home. Let's get started talking about the very beginning and probably the most important piece of all of this, and that's financing. In real estate, there are two ways to purchase, usually purchasing cash, meaning you pay for the entire home price up front with cash. Now, obviously this isn't cash. This usually comes in a form of a wire transfer from your bank to the title company. The other option is a mortgage. In 2024, the average first-time home buyer put about 9% down on their home purchase. Also, average age of first-time home buyers in 2024 was 38 years old, up from the average age in 2023 of 35 years old. And way back in the 80s and 90s, the average age was in the upper 20s. So we've seen some cultural trends, I think, change as everything is done a little bit later in most people's lives nowadays. Also, home prices, people are waiting a little bit longer. The incomes of first-time home buyers increased $20,000 in 2024 by $20,000, meaning that the average buyer had $20,000 more in income than in 2023. And that really comes down to, I think, people waiting a little bit longer, more so than incomes increasing over the last couple of years. Now, if you're going the mortgage route, I recommend talking to a few lenders just to compare interest rates, closing costs. What is that lender going to be able to do for you to help you get into the home that you're really wanting to get into? There are a number of different mortgage routes, different types of mortgages. There's also some grants here in New Mexico that you can take advantage of. Those usually sell quickly, meaning buyers that get put into those programs or find those programs through themselves or through their lenders, they get snatched up pretty quick. So you got to kind of make sure that you get with a good lender. We can recommend some to you that is on top of their game, that is willing and able to offer the best incentives so that you can get in again to your home. After meeting with a couple of lenders, feeling confident and comfortable with finances, that's when we really start to shop around and look for homes. Usually I like to meet here in the office to go through your wish list. We can also hop on a phone call, or we can meet at the first house. If you've been looking at Zillow, which a lot of my buyers do constantly, you've been eyeing something, you have that pre-approval, you feel comfortable with the ability to purchase, let's go look at some houses. Usually for my buyers, it takes between 3 and 8 houses to feel really comfortable with putting in an offer. Now, of course, I've had some buyers look at one house, put in an offer, and they really love living there. So that's not always the case, but sometimes it takes getting out there. And sometimes we can avoid getting out there and looking at 15 to 20 homes by meeting in the office and going through your wish list. Also meeting with me and talking about things to consider when buying a home. Maybe you don't want to back up to a busy street, right? Some investment thoughts to help you make a good decision that you're going to enjoy for a number of years. But also when you sell that home, the average seller in 2024 had their home for 10 years. We want to make sure that you really love living there. And there's no real way to fully guarantee that, but there's a checklist that I go through to ensure that you are making a great decision for you and your family. And the shopping part is really fun. That's when we get to walk into a house and walk right back out of it if it's not something that you're interested in. The thing about shopping for a home is photos don't tell the whole story. Satellite image helps give some more information, but also doesn't tell the whole story. You got to really get out there. I always recommend you drive by the home during the day, especially a weekday, to see what's going on while people are at work. Drive by at night when they're home from work. What's the differences? And what is maybe a Saturday or a Sunday compared to an evening where people are home? That evaluation of going out there, looking at the home at different times, and just considering a bunch of different options, I think will help you narrow down your search and feel really confident and comfortable when you put in that offer. Before we go and look at homes, we have to sign a buyer broker agreement. A buyer broker agreement is a contract between you, the buyer, and me, the broker. And the brokerage or the broker agreement states how I will be compensated. And it also can either be property specific, meaning for each home that we look at, we can put in a new address, we can have you sign that, and then we can go look at the house, or we can do an all-encompassing contract that is 3 to 6 months long. Sometimes I do a year long, depending on the timeline that you're looking to get things done. And that allows us to go look at unlimited properties as much as you want within that time frame. And if you're not comfortable with the way that we work, I don't like to hold people to contracts. If we're not working well together, if I'm not answering my phone, if I'm not providing value to you, if I'm not showing up, you are welcome to send me an email, cancel that contract, and go work with someone else who is providing the value that you really desire and deserve. And so that's kind of the process after you figure out finances before you get to go shopping around. The real fun part is shopping around. We need to get that buyer broker agreement signed so that we can get into houses. And there's probably more questions that you have about this buyer broker agreement. So when I give my contact information at the end of this video, reach out to me, ask those questions, hold us accountable to what we say the contract is going to be. And what I mentioned about if we're not working to your satisfaction, there are ways out of that we're not going to hold you to that because we really believe and have confidence in the value we provide people. And we don't need to be sticking people to things if they don't feel the same way as us. Speaking of feeling confident and comfortable, when we are looking at homes, we're going to really judge them while we walk through, or at least I will. I kind of want you to focus on the feeling, the emotional, the feeling when you walk into a house. I think a lot of people, when they end up purchasing a home, there's a feeling when you walk in that door, and then things just the boxes start to be checked off. Obviously we know before walking into it what the prices, bedrooms are, square footage, but does the floor plan make sense? Does the location make sense? Are the neighbors, do they seem to take care of their property? Does it have a view? Those boxes start to really check, and it's an emotional decision after those boxes are checked. We kind of need the combination of the two. And so I'll focus on making sure the boxes are checked. You just focus on, is this a place that I could really see myself living for a while? When we go to present the offer, that's the next step. You love the house, you feel comfortable with putting in an offer, the finances are in place, we have your pre-approval from your lender, or you have proof of funds, that you have the cash ready and available, either an investment account or some vehicle to be able to pull those funds out and be able to close on the property. When we present an offer, there's a lot that goes into that. And I think it's important that you meet with someone or you have a realtor that is able to break each section down, talk to you about how those sections are going to protect you or work against you, and how you can tactically use them to be able to write an offer that the seller is willing to accept while also protecting you. A great example of this, and I don't want to get into all of these, but let's talk about a basic one, which is earnest money. Earnest money shows the seller that you have skin in the game. It's usually in Albuquerque around 1% of the purchase price. So let's say we're purchasing a $400,000 house. We want to make sure that we have $4,000 ready to submit as a check to the title company. That money is going to sit with the title company until we close or until the contract terminates. If the contract terminates and you are within the deadlines of the contingencies of the contract, which I will discuss and go over before we present or before we submit an offer, you will get that earnest money returned to you. Now, if you are outside of the deadlines, then that money goes to the seller. If you close on the property, that money goes towards your down payment and closing costs. So let's say you pay $400,000 for a home, your down payment is $10,000, right? That $4,000 is going to go towards that $10,000 when you do close, or it's going to get returned if we stay within the deadlines of the contingencies. Contingencies are appraisal, inspection, survey, homeowners association documents, covenants, insurance. There's a number of them within the contract that, again, I will walk you through and make sure that you feel comfortable with each of those sections. Now, submitting an offer and waiting for a response is the second worst thing or part of buying a home. It just sucks. Waiting to hear back from the seller. Maybe there's a couple other offers on the table that you're competing against and you just don't know who the seller is going to accept. Or if you wrote an offer below asking price, you don't know what the seller is going to respond with. You don't know where their head is at. And I try to do or get a lot of that information up front from the listing agent or from the seller directly to make the unknowns as known as possible, to give you as much peace and comfort when we do submit the offer. But I can't do 100% of that. I don't know exactly where the seller's head is at unless I'm also representing the seller. And this is the part that I tell a lot of buyers, that if it's meant to be, if this is really the home that you and your family are going to be in the future, we're going to get a favorable response from the seller, and it's going to be meant to be, right? It's going to be the house that you're going to get into. There's no other way to look at it, because if you stress about it, if you're worried about it the entire time, it could ruin your thoughts of the home and your thoughts of the buying process. And so I would like for you to know upfront that it's a difficult process. It's not a perfect scenario. And this part is really difficult. And that leads me into the most difficult part. And that's once the seller accepts your offer. Yay, congratulations. You give your earnest money to the title company. There's some options within that. You can also wire that earnest money instead of taking a personal check-in. Then we're under contract and we schedule inspections. Inspections are the worst part. Sometimes a few days after you put in that offer and it's accepted, you may get cold feet. Some of my buyers do. It's part of the process. Maybe you're having the fear of missing out on something else, or maybe you're just overwhelmed by the process. Again, I try to deal with that up front and make sure, again, that you're so confident with that home, so comfortable with it, as comfortable as you could be, that we don't have those second thoughts throughout the process. But if you do, it's natural. That's okay. Talk to me, talk to other people in your family or your friend group, or just anyone you know who's bought a home, and they'll probably share similar thoughts with you. Now, inspections are difficult because the inspector is going to go through that house with a fine-tooth comb. They are going to do infrared cameras, a sewer scope, termite and dry rot. They're going to evaluate every little nook and cranny, all the mechanical systems, electrical, plumbing, roofing, etc., stucco, windows. And inevitably, whether it's a brand new home or it's 100 years old, there are going to be things on his list. And getting that report is difficult. Buying a home is difficult because no home is perfect. There are going to be some things that we need to ask the seller to repair. A home warranty is something that I sometimes try to offer to my buyers to just make them feel comfortable with the purchase moving forward, even if it's new construction. Sometimes they're between 20 and 120 pages, and you try to go through those. And I recommend you as a buyer read through each one of those pages, read through each section. Know every detail about the home that you're going to own, because if you do purchase, you're going to have to sell that eventually down the road. And these are the things that you need to maintain, take care of, repair, update over time to make sure that you get a return on your investment that is worthwhile down the road. Also, so that when you own the home, you're not stressed about the roof leaking or the sewer line backing up. Maybe there's the termites. Just all that damage can really wear on you and ruin your enjoyment in a home. And so that inspection report is thorough. We want to make sure we know everything about it, or as much as we possibly can, so that when you're living in the home, you're not stressed about it, you're able to keep up with it, and you're able to make a good investment, not only emotionally, but monetarily down the road. Now, there's some other things before we get to closing, like appraisal, survey, all the other contingencies I mentioned, making sure that you talk to your insurance provider. And then we get to the closing table. We sign documents, you send over money from your bank account via a wire, or you can do a cashier's check to the title company. The title company is there to make sure that everything from a title perspective is taken care of. There aren't any crazy liens. They'll make sure that the survey is correct, make sure that if there are any easements or anything that is going to disrupt your enjoyment at the home from the back end perspective. And I'll give you a quick story that I'd like to tell. In Corrales, sometimes there are pieces of land or homes that if you do a title search, they're going to pop up some random stuff. And I have heard stories of a piece of property that sold in 2012 where someone comes along in 2017, 2018 and says, look, I own this property. I purchased it from the owner at a coffee shop in Corrales in the 1960s. And you're like, what are you talking about? That's where title insurance comes in. They will make sure that that person is not taken care of. That's where they will back you up. And that's why the seller usually pays for that title insurance so that they're also covered. Because the chain of title, right? All the people that have owned that property over time are going to come up on the title search. And you want to make sure that you are owning or purchasing the home from the person that really owns it. And there's no one else that can state a claim that I own it. And so title insurance is there to cover you. So we're at the title company, we've signed documents, we've submitted our money. The lender has sent their money, everything is set for your mortgage. We're going to close on the house, we're going to get keys. There's a lot of other steps within the process, like we need to make sure that utilities are transferred into your name, insurance is set up, taxes are taken care of, blah, blah, blah. But all of that process, this is kind of just a bird's eye view of the entire process from a basic perspective. And so I wanted to make this video to kind of make that process sound doable, but to be honest about it, because there are like those 2 moments I mentioned, they're really difficult. They're not fun. It's not ideal. And buying a home takes some of that difficulty. It takes patience. It takes a little bit of stress. And the total timeline in 2024 on average in the United States from when the person starts shopping to when they get keys is about 10 weeks. And so if you're at the beginning of that phase and you're concerned about things, if you have questions, or if you're ready to get started on that and you're ready to move into something in May, we're beginning the year right now. If you're wanting to move into something in a few months, or even in a month from now, you're ready to go, or it's something down the line, I would love to talk to you about that. I would love to meet in our office, meet at a house, or get on a Zoom or a phone call and really talk about what you're looking for and how we can help you make that happen, how we can bridge the gap from where you are now to where you want to be, that house that you're really wanting to get into. And so if that's you, give us a call, 505-604-7826. You can also email me, josh@traditionrealestate.co. And I hope this video was helpful. I hope it gave you some insight, some things to think about, and gave you a path forward so that if you're wanting to buy a home, you know that there is a process to follow, that it's doable, and yeah, how exciting. I want to wish you all the best. I want to thank you so much for watching, liking, and subscribing. We'll see you on the next video. Take care.